So, a lot of people were having trouble with last week's survival, nightmare survival. Using the hunter, you don't see a lot of people use a hunter on survival because they kind of did their best to render the hunter basically useless with the demon hawachas that are constantly so you can't shoot anybody from distance, so you end up in close combat. But I wanted to show a different build that I used to get through the survival nightmare and beat it. Um, Not the story, but for the actual survival nightmare, all 25 rounds. And basically, what you want to do with this is, if you look here, the focus is the fire build is good for the story mode and for the first week's nightmare. But if they have these modifiers with immunity where there's no burn, it kind of becomes pointless. So what I did with this build is I put together a build that basically what you're looking at here is you want to focus on the special abilities. So you want a lot of resolve and you want a lot of cooldown. And so if you look at this build here, what I have is melee resolve gain with the water katana. I had the second stance, the moon stance for the brutes, which really helps because you can interrupt their red attacks, their big shield attacks with the triangle, and then the ability cooldown of 10%. And then for the bow, always the skipping bow because you get those extra kills on the special um, with the headshot on your special. But you're not going to do a lot of shooting after the first part because people are just going to be up on you. So you're going to use your sword a lot. Then we went with the hunter charm, the reload speed, and then the ability radius because when you're using your special, it increases the distance and the amount of the explosion that comes when you're shooting your special, and then a resolve increase. So one extra resolve, which results into you being able to use your special a couple more times each round. So which is a really big help, especially for your teammates when you're starting to get overwhelmed. And then the spirit kunai, again, we're focused on cooldown. So the idea is you save those kunai for when you see an enemy with barely any energy left, and you use them then to finish them off and get that reset on your ability cooldown. And then for again, you get the status effect duration. So that didn't matter because there's no burn. And then of course the healing gourd because you get the sudden resolve. So if you're hurt and you use your special, as soon as you use it, you have one resolve back, and you still have three more because you have that extra resolve from the charm. And so again, basically, you're just focusing on the cooldown aspect, and then you still have, of course, all your general setup with your techniques. Again, because we're carrying two legendary items, we get rid of the headshot. You're not even using the bow and arrow enough that that's going to be important, and the having that spirit kunai is huge because it really allows you to really use your special ability a lot in the way the game's meant to be played. I think they fixed the patch, but a lot of people were spamming the hunter's ability. But if you're playing the game straight up, then this is kind of the way to go. I would try this out if you're the hunter, even for this week where they've taken away the modifier of fire damage. So you can do a fire build, but this one kind of keeps you alive and keeps you as a better fighter in close quarters combat. Here I'm going to show you what again the setup is for techniques. Basically, you want to use the fire arrow explosion. You want the cooldown again. That's more cooldown, 15% cooldown on your ability. Again, we're trying to maximize our ability to use that explosive arrow. Damage effect increased by 25%. So there's no burn, but it still increases the amount of damage the explosion does when there's no burn, and of course it increases it even more when there is a burn, like this week's week 3. You want to use that, and then again, because in survival nightmare you're not really able to take a bunch of shots from distance, so the headshot perk is just not worth it. It's better to carry two two legendary items, which I think will help a lot. So for people who want to use the hunter and found that they really haven't been able to do it successfully on Survival Nightmare, I would try this setup out. I have a couple other setups that I'll be showing you that I'll be testing this week. It'll be a bit of a combination of this and the fire build that you can find on a lot of other people's YouTube pages. If you want to know about the fire build, you can look up other YouTube pages or other Reddits and things like that that'll show you some really, really strong fire builds when there's no modifier of immunity. Like for week 3, there's no modifier of immunity, so fire is really powerful in this one. But again, you're not going to have the ability to take a lot of shots from distance because of the demon how watches. So I'll show you the build if I get through this survival nightmare this week. When I do, I'll show you the build I use to get through it.